Good morning to you, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here in Santa Monica, California, United States, March 5th, 2021. Today's talk, the final in this series, on behalf of, in support of, the courageous women and men and the girls and boys in Myanmar, Burma, at this moment, risking everything. To put three fingers up, salute to the highest radiance of freedom and democracy and universal human rights, confronting terrorism as we have not seen in quite a long time, an act of moral courage by a nation. My heart bleeds and is inspired. Thank you, people of Myanmar, for showing us in the world what it means to care for things larger than your own self-interest. If I may just move in and out of different themes today. I've been speaking now for about a month, since February 1st, since the military coup d'etat took place, which moved into MAH-SAC, Min Aung Hlaing, the former senior general of Burma, who's turned into an Osama bin Laden, MAH-SAC, State Administration Council, MAH-SAC, the latest designation of state-sponsored, state-controlled terrorism. They are now designated as a terrorist group, MAH-SAC. And I'd like to speak about the Dhamma, the Pali Buddhist word, the Dhamma of Freedom, which I think is pretty much the operating system, if I can use that phrase, the ecology, the apparatus, the architecture of the civil disobedience movement in Burma, known or unknown. I think the Dhamma of it is about freedom, the architecture of freedom, the principles of freedom in action. And the Adhamma, the ignorance, the evil, and the expression of evil as terrorism of MAH-SAC, Min Aung Hlaing, and the State Administration Council, that to me should be synonymous worldwide at this point with Boko Haram in Nigeria, the terrorism of Pol Pot in the Khmer Rouge, with Osama bin Laden and ISIS and Taliban and ISIL. It is pretty difficult, and I know for many millions of people around the world, especially for the people of Burma, to see and to feel and to assimilate, which is nearly impossible to do, the horror of what we see and hear and smell and taste and reflect upon that's going down on the streets and in the homes all throughout the cities and the towns and villages of Myanmar, based upon MAH-SAC, MAH, Min Aung Hlaing, the former senior general of the Thamada, is no longer a representative of Aung San's military, and SAC, State Administration Council, MAH-SAC, the terrorist organization, tyrannizing the people. It's gone beyond anything that I could even imagine, although I had feelings of this over the last few years, and I know many people have. Let me just start with this, and I just want to be very frank, as I normally am, but really frank today, the final talk today. And may I encourage you, any of these talks, all of them, translate them into Burmese, into the various dialects within Myanmar in your own language. There's not a lot more that I can say that I haven't said. Share them, tweet them, reshare them, repost them. translate them, put them up online, let the people of the world see them. I think they're very clear, very concise, and my heart has been in it and it remains in it. But it's time to take a week off. I have a new book that's coming out that includes Myanmar. It's called Extinction X-Rated. It's an auto-fictional novel about my struggle with good and evil. And it's going to be coming out in a couple of weeks. I'm in the final days of proofing that. And I'm going to give a series of talks on that book that include Burma once it's up online and available for people around the world. Men, I'm a man. Men. I look at what's going down in the world today. I look at what's going down in Burma. And I hear the word in my head, men. Men. Men gone mad. The madness of the male. We've heard the phrase, the toxic masculine, the putrid male, the morally repugnant man, the morally vacuous military leader, the asshole in Myanmar. I mean, if we were to be frank, as men are, I grew up in a military family. I played all sports. I was fairly talented. I went to college on a football scholarship. I wanted to be a professional. It's a tough business. But you learn to assimilate within a tough milieu of other men. And you learn to suck it up. You learn to be direct. You learn to play by the rules. Or you get your ass kicked. My family is from Syria. My mother's side, they moved into Lebanon to escape the persecution, eventually came to New York in 1919 in their wedding dress and wedding gowns, and my grandfather in his suit on a steamer. Came to Boston, lived in the same house until they died. They were frank, an Arab Christian family. They were frank. They told you what the fuck they think. And as family, you learned to listen and dialogue, and you did what you did, but you were family. You took it up straight. Men. I grew up with a lot of women and men. My grandmother had 7 daughters. She had 7 sisters. I was among 25 grandchildren. I learned what it meant to commune and interrelate with powerful women, powerful men. And my dad was tall, my brother was big. And I grew up, in Boston, in West Roxbury, very close to Roxbury, which is one of the highest homicidal areas of the country. My schools had numerous ethnicities. Some people didn't even speak English. We moved to Virginia. I went to elementary school, the last years in high school, Virginia Beach, went to the University of Virginia. I was bused primarily to a predominantly black high school. I would get my ass kicked at times, and I would kick ass. I knew what it meant to play on team sports. I knew what it meant to shut the fuck up and deal with the rules and get over your fucking attitude because you didn't do exactly what you should have done when you could have done it. And you learn to blend in, play by the rules. You learn to fucking compete with balls. The terrorists in Burma, I bring this up, and I'm sorry to be so blunt, but it's like murder and terrorism is blunt. Men. The men in Burma suck. In the military. They absolutely suck. And there's something gone down in your milieu that you guys are so putrid, so unable to have frank conversations about your impotence, that you are the wimps, the pathetic people in society. Never got kissed, never were attracted by the finer women, blah, blah, blah. And look at your behavior. Speaks for everything. You put a uniform on your sorry ass and you call yourself a fucking senior general. You're a prick. No one's spoken to you in a clear manner about what a dick you are. That you're terrorizing the people, terrorizing the world, all because you can't handle a powerful, attractive leader called Aung San Suu Kyi and the people of her own country, dick. And you hide behind your fucking four walls and your Naypyidaw with your boys obedient to your fucking stupidity. And you hide behind nothing but shame and blame and judgment and projection and ignorance. And you now are a terrorist. And it's unmistakably clear you cannot be dealt with. You need to go to the Hague and to the criminal court and or go to Russia or China and retire and practice meditation until you achieve a higher state of frequency, of decency, if it's even possible. I'm going to close today's sharing in this 30 days of talks with my 10 points of action. But I can't not say there's something in this male, the man. I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in monasteries. Monks especially, laymen who are prominent, who are rich. They're arrogant pricks, man. Pricks. Entitled with privilege, and they just like, what in the fuck are you doing, man? But when you meet a really good guy, they're humble. They know talent. They reward intelligence. They're not insecure. They're not competing with what size this is and what size it isn't. Powerful, strong, confident men aren't calibrating their cryptocurrencies and their stock options and how much money they have or don't have and what's the size of their girlfriend's breasts. It's just not part of the paradigm, dude. And you're up there in Naypyidaw telling people, your people, to torture, rape, and you shot that girl in the fucking head. The whole world has seen that. And you're terrorizing the people. We saw those soldiers of yours grabbing the men out of the ambulance and beating them with the butts of their rifles over and over. What are you thinking, Dick? No one is in your face. Wimp pathetic. And I am shocked, maybe, call me naive, that leaders around the world don't see this and go like, what a dick. Even though you're meaningless, take him out. I don't mean shoot you. You've already shot yourself. I mean put you in a gulag naked as you've done to so many radical revolutionaries in that country. Read my books, Burma's Voices of Freedom, with my colleague Fergus Harlow. We've studied your country. We've met the minds of your revolutionaries. What it's like to suffer 10 years, 20 years in solitary confinement. How they managed to bring the Dhamma to a prison cell and kept freedom alive. And there's a new generation, they call it Generation Z. I'd call it Generation F, Generation Freedom. Freedom from fear. Freedom from a prick like you in the military that you command to terrorize the people, and we hear rumors of you turning the electricity off of the entire country and shutting down Mandalay and Rangoon possibly to outlaw anyone on the streets for maybe 3 weeks. You're sick. You are an Angulimala. No one's told it to you straight. When you're in a monastery, if you ever did your koyinship, you ever were a monk for a period of time under a learned Sayadaw, a monk would have looked you in the fucking eyes and said, shut the fuck up or leave the yekta. You're here to look at your own mind. And you, sir, as a man, refuse to do what is fundamentally male. At its core, with dignity, is to assume responsibility for the state of your own mind. You're obedient to tyranny. You've mistaken evil for goodness. you are called a pathological psycho. These aren't cruel words. This is a man talking to you as we would talk to each other on and off the field when you play a team sport called democracy. You take it straight, dude. No one's talking to you straight. You got a culture of people who are super, uber respectful. They don't speak this way. It takes a crude maverick American to get in your fucking face and do this. And I hope it gets into your inbox. I could give a shit whether I'm fucking blacklisted yet again. Who cares? It's a proud mark on my career. But what you're doing to Daw Soo, U Win Tain, Sean Turnell, to Win Myint, to 1,700 other people now incarcerated, I say call it straight, UN. Call it straight, G7. MAH-SAC, your days are over. The criminal court has a #1 Osama bin Laden on you, dude. And that means everyone in collusion with you. Hear it loud and clear. You are done. And that's why you're acting out so violently. Humble your sorry ass. Call off your war on your people in the name of what? No one's believing your bullshit. Everyone in the foreign missions, another 10 defected yesterday. Tomorrow, another 50, till eventually every diplomat that was empowered by the civilian government will say no to Angulimala. You're no longer in the military. You've ruined your role, dude. Ambassadors worldwide, the humble chancellors and ambassadors of the civilized nations representing the United Nations, embedded to commit to the wisdom in action of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, will see they are seen. You cannot be dealt with. You're done. You're over. You can do what you want, but Gen F, Gen Freedom, freedom from fear, they understand music and dance and sex and love and touch and intimacy and coexistence. And you, dude, don't understand what it means to make love even with your own fucking wife. You are vapid, morally vacuous. No one's ever gotten into your head. Call me a lay Sayadaw talking to you across the ocean, dude. No one is willing to stand up to you. Your wife, your family, your cronies, Tan Shui, even your fellow generals. If they were to hear this, they would be disgusted to ever walk into a monastery again anywhere in the world. They would be shunned. Any monk or nun of her worth, his worth, would look into your vacuous mind and go, sir, you do not belong in this yekta. You are not a son of the Dhamma or the Buddha or the Sangha. Take your dana and shove it up your ass. You're over. You're not a man. Your uniform will not protect you. You're done. MAH-SAC, Ming Online, State Administration Council. Think Boko Haram. Think Khmer Rouge. Think ISIS. Think you are over. That's my first point. Man to man. Okay, yes, I don't like Mr. Clements. I don't like men, especially, who speak down to me. No. I'm speaking into your heart, dude. This is what men do. I could easily punch you out if I were in the room with you. And I'm older than you, wiser than you, smarter than you, and love your people more than you do. And look at you. Look at your behavior. Reprehensible, criminal, terrorist. That your wife ever looks at you and doesn't spit in your face. Shame on you, Mrs. MAH-SAC. If your son doesn't spit in your face and say, Dad, you suck. Because the truth of the matter, behind all of the facade of the Dhamma and religion and peace and nobility and reconciliation, every boy and girl, every woman and man, every monk and nun in the world is thinking deep in their heart the truth of what I really think and feel. You fucking suck. You are tyrannizing freedom fighters who are basically saying, give us our leaders back. We want you to honor. We want you to honor. Why should we ask you to honor? Because you've got the biggest dick, the biggest gun, that you've got the biggest mansion in Naypyidaw, that you've got China, the genocidal Xi Jinping in your pocket, or he's in your pocket, or you're in his pocket, or whatever, you're down on your knees, or with Putin. These are sick psychopaths. The world should stand up and put you to rest, sir. I don't say kill you. You've killed yourself. You have no moral ground. You need to enter a monastery, if they would even take you. But you need to remove yourself from the position of authority. You're not a man. You're not a man. You're not a man. You're a pathetic, untrained, little, entitled asshole boy. How did you get this way? I've been an asshole too. I've learned to grow out of it because you get punched out by people who are not so big an asshole as you are. And you learn to blend in and grow and learn. I had to go from my fucking country all the way to your country to learn how to tame my mind in a monastery. They allowed me. They held me. They took me in as family. This is way back under Ne Win, long before you were around, dude. And I began to understand the politics of your country. The general under Ne Win was one of my dearest friends and still is, General U Tin U, the Nayaka of the NLD, 93 years old. He went from murderer under a dictator like you under the thumb of Tan Shui, and after 6 years in prison, he broke into his conscience and heart. You should go seek his company in Rangoon and get down on your fucking knees and ask him, sir, how do I break the trance of dictatorship? I know you did it. I want to do it. I know what I'm doing I think is right, but I know someplace in me that it's wrong. You saw that it was wrong. Help me understand. And have his wife translate for your sorry ass why you are a fool and an idiot, Angulimala. I'm not upset. I'm just fucking pissed off. You know why? Because I love your country. I love what the people of that country believe in. Yes, there's misfits like me. Yes, the prisons used to be filled until you let them out with 23,000 common criminals that you said go terrorize the people and paid the money to terror. What dog behavior is that? You're not even a Kwe. Back in the Tan Shui era, they put medals around dogs' necks with his image to indicate their next lifetime. You will be born as a dog with maggots all throughout your body. Study the Tipitaka. Study the Apayalokas. Do you realize what you're doing? You're digging your grave into eternal damnation, and you're taking your wife and your family and your cronies and your other military leaders, and you're going into the Apayalokas. Do you want to do that, Angulimala? Do you want to do that? Do you want to kill people on the way to purgatory? Stop in the name of the Dhamma. You're gripped by Adhamma. Go to a monastery. Go to U Tin U's house. Go talk to Daw Aung San Suu Kyi and ask her, am I acting in Dhamma or Adhamma? What would Sayadaw U Pandita say to me? Daw Su, what would you say to me? Humble your sorry ass. When I was a monk for a very brief period of time, 3 years and maybe 8 months, I jammed it in. I never knew how long I could get into that country and how long I could stay, and I was thrown out many times. But I did what I could do to learn there, and I learned from Mahasi Sayadaw, my preceptor and my first teacher before he died. He told me there's 2 forms of bhavana or meditation. One is called meditation on one's own process. Mindfulness of one's own mind, to know your mind, young monk. He named me Agasara. You must know your own mind, Agasara. You must understand the machinations of lobha, dosa, moha. You must understand how to take responsibility for them, because if you don't, moha blends into moha and dosa and lobha, and you feel entitled, you feel righteous. You do things in the name of freedom that persecute and terrorize other people. You're gripped by your stupidity, Mahasi Sayadaw would say. And as a monk or a nun, what you do first and foremost is get a hold of your fucking mind and take responsibility. The dog barking isn't your problem. Be aware of the sound, be aware of the reaction. The anger originated in your own mind. Gen freedom fighters are not your enemy. They are your friend, and you are doing the fundamental evil of a monk, which is to blame, to judge, and to project your ignorance on others, and then you commit a prajika, a violence to the Sangha. You are taking life. You're wearing the military garb, and it might as well be the robes of a monk in green, and you're committing the ultimate evil as a military leader, just as a monk who would take the life of someone, is the gravest sin. You're killing boys and girls of your own people, fellow Buddhists. Without arms, all they want is peace, justice, freedom, rule of law. Their freedom fighters released, Daw Aung San Suu Kyi released, the parliament restored, and call off your dogs from the tyranny. You're committing the ultimate evil. Blinded by your Angulimala pride. Look up the word mana in Pali. M-A-N-A, mana. Toxic mana. Toxic pride. Motivated by evil cetana. Study these things with a monk. Go to a monastery for a couple of hours or a couple of days. Ask one basic question. Am I doing Dhamma or Adhamma? Where will Adhamma lead? Where will Dhamma lead? How can I stop my Adhamma? How can I develop the courage to practice Dhamma? 3 sets of questions. Ask now. Back in '88, we watched in horror the massacre of the boys and girls in Mandalay and Rangoon. We watched in horror. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7,000 boys and girls killed at close range, all within a week or 2, others imprisoned. Then I remember seeing on Time magazine bullets in alms bowls. Your dictator in hiding in Naypyidaw, along with Ne Win, ordering the ransacking and the killing of the Sangha. I remember seeing that Time magazine cover in a store And my heart began to weep and bleed, and it blended in with the tears of the 88 generation. The 88 generation. You've got a new generation, Gen F, freedom fighters, and they're going to mix with the generation wave and generation 88 and every generation above and below. You're over. And I learned Dhamma, but I wondered, oh my God, they're killing and persecuting my mother and father, my sisters and brothers in robes. They've gone out of their mind. Right there on the spot, I began to see the edge of my limitation on how I understood meditation. Mahasi said, Alan, there's two forms of meditation. One is self, being mindful of self, and we do it in a monastery. We could do it at home. Sitting, standing, walking, reclining, bending. He told me all postures, all times, all states, all contexts. No time off from mental awareness of your own process, to take the flood of your kilesas, he told me, off of others. The flood of kilesas off of others. That's your fundamental responsibility as a human being, to take your flood, your tyranny of lobha and dosa and moha off of others. That's why the soul of the Buddha is ahimsa, harmlessness. You can trust me. I have cut the flood of self-tyranny inside of my own mind. I have cut lobha, dosa, and moha. I'd never heard such a beautiful concept. And then Mahasi told me there's a second kind of meditation. It's meditation in context. Wherever you go, walking, standing, moving, working, plowing the fields, selling this and that in stores, no time off from awareness in context. And it was like so amazing to me to see that, in fact, many of the Buddhist texts are people awakening and practicing this timeless Dhamma of calling off the flood of the kilesas wherever they are, no matter what they're doing. And I began to see, when I first met Daw Aung San Suu Kyi, that she encouraged this second form of Dhamma revolution, which was taking the timeless principles of beauty, generosity, mudita, sympathetic joy, karuna, compassion, metta, loving kindness, and panya, wisdom and freedom, vimutti, in action. It's not meditation off the cushion. It's not yoga off the mat. It's not engaged Buddhism. It's not sacred activism. It's not anything other than being human in context and seeing that I'm not confined by the apartheid of my own dogma. Meditation, Dhamma, freedom is not something you do in a monastery or something confined to a sitting posture. That whole concept of Dhamma bypassing, where this is not really integral. Politics and Dhamma are separate domains. Dhamma is everything. Politics fit into Dhamma as everything. Daw Aung San Suu Kyi, Sayadaw U Pandita, Mahasi. You look at these Tipitakas, you look at these 11,000 pages, and what I learned at the Mahasi Yekta under Mahasi Sayadaw U Sujata, Sayadaw U Janaka, so many of these leading monks and nuns, and Sayadaw U Pandita, Dhamma is the oxygen of civilized existence. There is no monastery or politics. There is no military or monks. It is consciousness in context. The whole world will understand this in a matter of days and weeks. Your country, sir, is the root expression in modern times of Dhamma, revolution, freedom, human rights, democracy in action. Daw Suu was the one who brought the phrase metta in action. Otherwise, it's fantasy love, she said to me way back in 1995. Compassion in action. Otherwise, it's fantasy compassion. I remember her telling me very bluntly, dana without giving is impotent. You can't just wish for someone to have medicines or shelter or safety or food. You provide safety, shelter, medicines, and food. The same way with love. You provide love. You uplift another person through the action. I remember watching her and her colleagues, U Tin U and U Chi Mung. I wish, sir, you would study my books. Not me, their words, these leaders. The world understands through their words what it means to manifest spirituality in context, Dhamma in context. I encourage all sayadaws and nuns and monks in Burma, study the words of your savants. U Win Tin, U Tin U, U Win Tain, Daw Suu, U A Mung, Ma Theta, Mo Mo Myat, Cheswa. Just read Cheswa, the head of the Irrawaddy, mind-boggling savant of Dhamma in action who never learned meditation. You talk about non-bypassing spiritually or Dhammically. These people live and breathe. Oxygen is something we do all the time. You don't practice meditation when you sit. You don't practice meditation only when you breathe. Breathing is something we do all the time. There's no apartheid other than we create a creation in our mind. It's a false divide. Sir, you missed your Dhamma culture. You missed your Dhamma education. I'm sorry to go on about this. It may sound esoteric, but there are a lot of people around the world. How can I participate in Burma's struggle for freedom right now? Integrate your Dhamma into context. Freedom in action. How can I support freedom in action? And so let me close here with this last quarter of the sharing. I'm beholding to the people of your country as family. They're not just Dhamma family, but family and democracy, family and freedom. I became who I am today as a result of my interactions primarily among the people of Myanmar and Burma. I note them frequently. I am so honored to have them, those who are still alive, as friends and as mentors, and some as actual teachers. Mahasi Sayadaw, my Dhamma father. His appointed heir, Sayadaw U Pandita, my Dhamma father. 43-year relationship. Daw Aung San Suu Kyi, I met her through my dear friend and mentor, the former general under your dictator, U Tin U. My brother, my uncle, my mentor, my teacher, my friend. We're tight. I'm tight. I love these people. I cannot be who I am without them. U Win Tain, I love him. U Tin U, I was blessed to spend several weeks with him before he died, talking with him. A mind-boggling expression of Dhamma in action. How do you bring Dhamma and freedom into the confinement of solitary imprisonment without a bed, without a pee or a pot to urinate or defecate in, without a blanket or a mattress? And yet these people talk about the luminosity of dignity as the vocation of my presence. Sir, you've lost your dignity, the soul of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Myanmar is a wisdom culture, and a wisdom culture in context and dynamic action. That's why what you're doing is a revolution of the spirit. Gen Z, Gen F, freedom fighters nonviolently, they refuse to participate in your terrorism. The police and the military and senior commanders all will soon, I predict, defect. We will see the non-legitimacy of you, sir, MAH-SAC, the latest Osama bin Laden on the planet. The UN is going to act. America is going to act. Canada will act. Australia will act. Even ASEAN will get off their sorry ass and act. And you will be isolated. And we're going to see a victory in Burma, a victory of the spirit, a victory of the ethnicities, a victory of Daw Aung San Suu Kyi's vision of freedom, a victory of General Aung San, of an independent country free of tyranny and persecution. We will see a victory in Myanmar, sir. Either you can participate in that victory, or it'll be your death in The Hague as a criminal terrorist. And I want to close today with 10 actions in brief. And may I encourage again, as I sign off for the next week or so, share the videos if you're moved that I've been giving for the last 30 days. It's my heart. It's the best that I could offer. Share them. Translate them to your native language. Translate them into Burmese. Be a force multiplier. Share, retweet, tweet, share, retweet. Put them out. Get them everywhere. There are a lot of people that are speaking up, and I'm doing my humble best. And if you want to support Burma, support these videos going everywhere. 10 actions. We must stop the MAH-SAC, Ming Online, State Administration Council, the latest terrorist group on the planet, MAH-SAC. It's the Angulimala of the military. Angulimala is the epic serial killer at the time of the Buddha in the traditional Buddhist texts, who had killed 999 people and wanted to anoint his egoic evil with killing the Buddha as his thousandth murder. And he told the Buddha to stop, and the Buddha looked at him dead in the conscience of his indignity and said, I have stopped Angulimala. It's you who haven't stopped MAH-SAC. I've stopped my lobha, dosa, and moha. You live and breathe Adhamma. You live and breathe toxic mana, toxic pride, righteousness, judgment, blame, murder, tyranny, ignorance, greed, and anger. We must in the world stop Angulimala, MAH-SAC, the Taliban, the Khmer Rouge, the Pol Pot, the Bin Laden. Stop Angulimala in Burma, UN. Stop everywhere in the world. Stop this terrorist now. How? Tan Shui, your dictatorial father, arrest him, put him under house arrest today. Put MAH-SAC under house arrest in Naypyidaw today. Get on national TV, appoint a new senior general, release Daw Aung San Suu Kyi, reconvene the parliament, and put the military into rehabilitation and learn what it fucking means to be a dignified army and not a terrorist group. 2, a military coup d'etat at the upper echelons of the leadership of the MAH-SAC terrorist group. 20 generals get together in Naypyidaw, wherever you are, talk among yourselves in your own kind of code and dialectic. What would it be like for us to save our ass and our family and our money and our children and our friends and our associations? All we have to do is agree to sort of disagree with head dick, MAH-SAC, Ming Online, and let's just kind of like walk in with our pistol in our pocket and put it to his head and just say, listen, we own the men more than you do, and guess what? You and your wife and your son and a few other of your cronies, you'll have your servants, don't worry about it. But you're now under house arrest until you die, dude. And Burma's being restored to a decent fucking country rather than being seen as a terrorist country. You are worse than North Korea. Boko Haram in Nigeria. You are a terrorist group. I really employ these senior Dhamma leaders other than MAH-SAC. You've got the ultimate position. You could be redeemed and save your ass. All you got to do is put MAH-SAC under house arrest today. Point 2. I can't emphasize this enough. The women of the world, by and large, larger than by and large, rock. Something in the male gene and the DNA that just fucking sucks. I'm talking as a guy. I'm saying no men as political leaders, no men as prime ministers, no men as politicians, no men as yoga teachers, no men as Dharma teachers. Turn the Sangha over to the nuns. Call it humor, call it satire, no. Men, me, you got it wrong. Time for the woman, the feminine, the divine feminine, the fucked up feminine, whatever they need to do to lead the world. Start with the women in Myanmar. You girls and women and Tilashins rock. Tattooed hip-hop singers, dancers, sex workers, police women, break ranks with your dick husband. Wives of terrorist leaders, cut them off sexually, emotionally, psychologically. In the West, we go like this: fuck you. Whatever in Burma you need to do this to your dick terrorist husband, say, fuck you, dick. Your behavior sucks. Throw me out of the house, because I've thrown you out of my heart. And never again think you can touch my body with that sorry, dark, terrorist behavior of yours. Where are you, women in the Dhamma? Where are you, wives? Why aren't you doing as diplomats and ambassadors are doing around the world? Why don't you defect from the putrid relationships that you have? Aren't you smarter than that? How can you associate with assassination of girls and boys who simply want to keep dancing, who voted for Aung San Suu Kyi and Win Myint and other parliament members? They voted in your fucking election, and you're killing them through bullets and guns and rape and hunting them, and you still make love with them? That's called sickness. Dogs do that. Indiscriminate dog behavior. Shame on you, women, to perpetuate the myth of terrorism by supporting it financially or sexually or emotionally on any level. Stop. Point 3. Women, divorce. Free Dasu. Free the people, or it's over. And even to think that there's something to come back to is like beyond me to imagine. Beyond me to imagine you naked with the terrorist and calling that intimacy, sex, and love, bringing life into the world. That's I'm sorry to say it, that's as low life can be. 4, police and military in Burma. I know you do what you're told. My father was a chief petty officer, and my mother was also in the military. They were veterans of World War II. I've said this numerous times. I lived with his own shadow, which was do as I say, don't ask why to do it. But we were tough boys, my brother and I, Dave. And we were talented, we were smart, we were tall, we were swift. We grew up in a culture where you had to fucking learn how to swing, and to avoid being swung at, you had to work, play, I loved sports. My liberation from growing up in a fucking 30-foot trailer, being hauled up and down the East Coast from military base to military base was to excel. I read, I studied, I earned money, I learned how to play baseball. I learned and studied the life of Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle, little things, yes. I wanted to understand how to fucking hit a metaphorical home run and a literal home run. I wanted to understand how to run touchdowns and catch touchdown passes. I wanted to fucking how to win the war. And you fucking have to do that by doing it well and playing by the rules. In military in Burma, you're playing by the rules of terrorism. The police in Burma, you're playing by the rules of terrorism. You're no longer police women or policemen. You're no longer in the military. Have a heart-to-heart with people in your life. Am I doing Dhamma or Adhamma? I know what it means to believe your own thoughts. Any meditator in the world who is encouraged to sit and occupy their own mind and not run away. Burma is a culture of satipatthana, bhavana, mind training. Number one, you see meditation halls with 50 to 1,000 girls and boys or more. And what do? They sit and occupy consciousness without running away. We see our indoctrination. We see our obedience to deluded thoughts and behaviors and psychologies, and we feel the impulsion to move on those old primordial habits and mind threads and arteries of evil. But your teacher, out of compassion, if you're lucky to have a good teacher who has good compassion, supports you in restraint. The morality of restraint. Police and military in Burma, where is your Dhamma restraint? You don't do what you're told when it's asila, against the Dhamma, Adhamma. You don't do that. The military isn't larger than the Dhamma or the Buddha or of democracy. A military force, a police force, is to protect citizens from injustice and criminality. Look at the boys and girls out there on the streets. Look what they're dressed like. Look at their music and their dance. Listen to their songs and their poems. Your children love their same music, and you are raping, hunting, and killing them. Shame on you, military and police in Burma. Shame on you. You are criminal. You are colluding with crimes against humanity, your own people. The ultimate sin, the ultimate kama and vipaka, guaranteed a paya rebirth. You will be born as a dog, an animal, a centipede, or a being in hell. You know that better than me. You live in a Buddhist culture. I had to escape capitalism. Point 4. Take off your uniforms, take off your police force, put down your guns. Don't go to your barracks. Go back home and go, 3 me. I have seen the light. I have woke, as we say. I am awake. I refuse to be obedient to tyranny and to terrorism. Very simple. Just as you would tell your wife, love, I want to make love. Make love, not terror. Stand on the side of the people, dude. Stand on the side, girl, of the freedom fighters, Gen Z, the nuns, the monks, the civil servants, the civil disobedient movement, the trade unionists, the teachers, the cafe workers, the manufacturers, the bankers. Point 5. Senior Seiros and Tila Shins. What can I say? Double up. Put 3 fingers on your bowl. How cool would that be in the new modernized Sangha? The 3-finger Pindapat, walking through the villages all throughout Myanmar. And the people would go crazy. They would probably put rubies and diamonds in those bowls rather than just fish sauce and white rice. Or just simply, as you walk through the villages with your free hand, every now and again put up 3 fingers. Slowly, other monks and slowly other nuns and senior Sayadaws will break the coma of dogma, no offense, and see that Dhamma by Mahasi Sayadaw and Mingun Sayadaw and Ledi Sayadaw was a contextual experience. It wasn't confined to the robe. A nun and a monk quoting the Tipitaka only because she or he wears the mahogany robe and shaves their head is not a monk or nun. Only when you abandon Lobha, Dosa, Moha. It does nothing about not belonging to the village, not belonging to society, not belonging to the city, not driving in a car, not meeting people in other places out of my monastery. It's called contextual revolution, Dhamma, freedom, Vumutti in action. Bring your metta in action. Bring your compassion in action. Not just send it through mind waves, which is beautiful. Physical actions that symbolize your respect for freedom and action, called solidarity. How can you be in solidarity with the people, senior Sayadaws and monks? Bring in MAH-SAC, invite him in, Siddhagu Sayadaw, and ask him to ask you the question. Siddhagu Sayadaw, I'd like to ask you a question. Am I doing Dhamma or Adhamma? How can I know the difference? And don't fucking back down. And he says, what do you think I should do from what you've told me? And therein lies, I fear my own incarceration. I fear my persecution, falling out of favor with him. Moral courage, the backbone of Sila. Coming online, release Aung San Suu Kyi. Whoa, 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 the world would go, Siddhagu Sayadaw, you'd go beyond the Pope in an instant. Release Aung San Suu Kyi. Get it, senior monks and nuns. Speak up. Release the President Win Myint. Convene the parliament. Release the country from the psychology of tyranny. Let's carry on with democracy. Why can't you say that? Say it in 1,000 different ways. 3 fingers everywhere you go. Point 6, businesses inside Burma, businesses outside Burma, manufacturers inside Myanmar, manufacturers outside sending things into Burma, financial transactions in Myanmar, financial transactions going from Myanmar out, money transfers from Asian countries, everything to do digitally or physically with stuff, business, liquids, plastics, cars, lumber, gems, rubies, oil, gas, labor. S-T-O-P, C-E-A-S-E, cease, stop colluding with collective terrorism. That's called blood money, but it's not blunt enough. You are colluding with mass tyranny. You are culpable as supporting the Third Reich, the Taliban, Boko Haram, the Khmer Rouge. Get it, businesses, you're not immune. Your days are numbered. Show moral strength. Chevron, Total Oil Company, cease your fucking participation in terrorism. Shareholders all around the world, like we did with GameStop, cease, divest, stop all stock purchases in Chevron, in Total, bankrupt them overnight. All beer, cigarettes, Coca-Cola, anyone doing business in Burma connected to MAH-SAC. Point 6. Cut your collusion. The information is online. Do a search and act. Point 7. Arms embargo, okay. Yada, 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 yada. Arms embargo. Okay. Point 7. Name the countries, name the companies, name the men who are the arms dealers of the companies making deals and supplying weapons, missiles, petrol, uniforms, bullets, cages, tanks, aircraft, engine parts, everything to do with tyranny, because every bit of military apparatus in Myanmar today is controlled by MAH-SAC, the latest terrorist group on the planet. Surely, no matter how evil you are, you've got enough money as it is. Russia, China, Egypt, Ukraine, Turkey, and I hear underground dealers from Israel. Those 5 nations, everyone in the world, trace the men, their emails, their websites, their weapons, how many, where they come from, how they get into the country, who procures them, who are the middle people. Stop the arms killing trade. It's terrorism in action. Just why we don't want our children to ingest phenol or heroin or methamphetamine. Stop supplying murder terror weapons to MAH-SAC. Surely that must be done today, right now, United Nations. Shame on you, companies and men in the middle. Oh, I know you're off in your little fucking 5-star hotels and your private jets with your little, your sweet little wind-up dolls or boys, whatever you've got on your little cruise ships in the Med, smoking your $16,000 cigars and calling, oh, those fucking ideologues. Fuck you, arms dealer. Call them out. Wherever we are in the world, activists can identify the arms dealers. Let's put it up online on every site in the world in support of Myanmar. This is where the tyranny is coming from. This bullet that killed that girl came from this man. This is his address. And let the world know, hey, dude, we know where you live. We know where you live. Where that bullet went into her head, guess what? Reversed direction. It's called Dhamma in action. We're not bypassing this shit. We're calling you out. Arms dealers. It's not just an arms embargo, blah, blah, blah. I say go after them. The CIA, M15, the FBI. Who are these guys? Have pictures of them all over Facebook, all over Twitter, all over Instagram. Show the world the face of the people who are selling the guns and bringing them into Burma. Show the men in Burma who are buying the guns. Show the actions of the guns and the planes and the oil, everything. Expose it. Go for it. Point 8. I don't know why this isn't immediately done by President Biden. And I dare not denigrate him any more than he's denigrating our country right now. It's shocking to me that this man has not offered an open, extemporaneous conversation with the people of my country and the world. Have you no cognitive skills? I don't mean to denigrate you, but you are denigrating our people. You're denigrating our country. You're denigrating our democracy. Your behavior surrounding the Capitol building and the White House with 5,000 to 7,000 armed soldiers for fear that it's going to be taken over, you are out of your mind, man. That's senility. You're out of your mind. In my book that's coming out shortly, Extinction X-Rated, I'm going to be expanding my talks, and I hope you'll tune in and stay with me. It's going to include Burma, human rights, but it's going to get right down into cancel culture and all the various narratives that I see that are happening in my own country. And I'm going to use my voice. I'm going to fight fucking back, because freedom of speech and expression is everything. Without it, we're dead. And they're killing it in Myanmar, and they're going to try to kill it in America. Welcome to the Fourth Reich, the oligarchs of Davos. Obvious, no cliche, no conspiracy. And I want to address that issue coming up with Extinction X-Rated. Send an attack aircraft carrier from the South China Sea immediately, Mr. Biden. And don't waste any more fuel and our boys and girls over there, men and women in uniform, playing video games on their fucking phones, knowing that there'll never be anything that comes down with mainland China because you're in the pocket of the goddamn Xi Jinping. We all know that. You sold out. You supplicated our country, our workers, our people, dude. No one's willing to get into your face. Yes, there are the Bannons, Navarros, the Trumps. I am proud of these people calling you out. Yes, I'm a patriot. I'm an American. I care about freedom. I don't like bullshit and lies. And what you're doing is cowardly, fraudulent, supplicating, whoring. You're selling out America for your fucking profit, your money, your privilege, your fucking whiteness. Send an aircraft carrier there. I've been on these ships. My dad's been on many of them. I love soldiers. They've got power and spine. All my friends when I was a kid were fucking Marines. I was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old talking to these boys. They were so dignified, so amazing. They're amazing. And look at you at the top. Pathetic. Sending our military into useless forever wars to sell weapons to your white fucking privileged country club weapons dealers on Wall Street. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. Get it right. Send the Nimitz or the Theodore Roosevelt Aircraft Attack Group to the Andaman Sea, please, with those extraordinary 64 F-18 Hornet jets. And put them in full display and please paint 3 fingers on the flight deck. How rad that would be. It would go around the world. Sir, you would be the ultimate of all Nobel Peace Laureates in an instant. With a simple command to tell someone, bring the Nimitz into the Andaman Sea. Listen to Mr. Clements. I know he's got a point. I think it's a very useful thing to do, to stand in the ocean in solidarity with the people of Myanmar. After all, they are a democracy in action. They're being persecuted by MAH-SAC. It's a very noble action. It's between India and Burma and China. Everyone thinks I've sold out to China. I know that Burma is the next Tibet. It'll be showing that Xi Jinping isn't basically my daddy. It's a very good move on all. We can't lose, Mr. President. Send the fucking ship there today. and feed the people of Burma, fund the people of Burma, show our military strength simply by letting the ship anchor there. And you can be sure Naypyidaw will cringe. There will be the immediate calling off of the terrorism in the country. He wants to shut the countries down. He wants to lock down Mandalay and Rangoon. He wants to turn the electricity off in the entire country. Under the cloak of darkness, look what he's doing under the light of social media. Under darkness, that's Auschwitz. That's Dachau. How can you allow that? Stop. Send the ship now. Point 9, which is eternal. Free Daw Aung San Suu Kyi. Come on, guys and girls around the world. Free Daw Aung San Suu Kyi. She is the national leader. 89% of the people in her country adore her. They call her Ma-Su, Mother of Freedom, Mother of Democracy, the protector of universal human rights. Is she flawed? Who isn't the fuck flawed? Is she decent? Far more decent than me. Does she have moral courage? More than I do, and more than everyone I know. She's a student of my own teacher. He adores her. He's direct with her. He's passed on. She's an amazing human being. She's been under the most difficult conditions. Her husband died. She hasn't been near her children. Her friends and colleagues have been tortured and raped. You know what it means to hold that? I've been with her. She's holding it with grace. Look what she's encountered. For 11 years, she's tried to seek reconciliation with a terrorist group, and the world threw her under the bus that she wasn't doing it well enough. They assassinated her best friend, her lawyer, a Muslim lawyer, U Chi Ni. Free Daw Aung San Suu Kyi now. World leaders, people around the world, rise up. Free Daw Aung San Suu Kyi. 10 is where I started, and I'll end here. I see no other way around it, but I think the United Nations and the State Department, United States, Canada, Australia, I think it's high time to stop referring to Ming Online as a senior general. I think it's high time to stop looking at it as a military coup. It's not a military coup. It's a terrorism organization that is using the camouflage, if you will, of military garb to have psychologically outwitted the world to think that they're actually a military. But they're a terrorist organization that profits in drugs, in arms, and mercilessly kills and assassinates their own people, like the Taliban the other day. I read an article in Kabul where 2 young girls, journalists, 20 and 21 years old, who had graduated from, is it Kabul University, with journalism degrees. And they were followed on a rickshaw, and they both were assassinated, and the Taliban claimed responsibility and credit for it. That's terrorism. Welcome to MAH-SAC. And the world should see that MAH-SAC should be designated as a terrorist group and seek a variety of options on the back door for the leaders of the terrorist group. 1, open up the door in the criminal court and indict them in neon signs worldwide in the headlines, re-indicted for crimes against humanity, not just the Rohingya, but crimes against their own people. A new crime against humanity. Make it on the LA Times, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the BBC. Ming Online, criminal at large, terrorist, Taliban, re-indicted in the criminal court with these 10, 20, 50, 100 men and their company cronies in collusion with them and the arms dealers, a collection of about 500 men indicted in the criminal court as a terrorist group. 10 actions. And I'll close this series and take absence for a week or so in honor of those women and men and girls and boys in Myanmar who have fallen, who've been murdered by MAH-SAC. There are no words to describe the anguish of the immediate family members to those people. There is no way to understand the horror that you're dealing with. But from my heart to yours and to the many millions of people around the world, we stand in solidarity with your tears, your pain, the outrage, the trauma. You're not alone. And to the other women and men in the country of Myanmar right now who are risking everything for freedom, for democracy, for the release of your leaders, for the restoration of decency, for the reconvening of Parliament, we stand with you. You are awesome, to state the obvious. What you're doing, I pray my daughter has contact with you at some point in her life, in her generation. She's only 14. And the children under her age, they have role models. My role models are all older. Many of them have passed on. Mahasi Seda, Seda U Pandita, U Win Tin, U Tinu, 93, U Chi Mung, my dear mentor and friend, he's died. Da Aung San Suu Kyi, 75. They're all older and wiser and powerful. But a new generation is emerging. You're bringing something so radiant, so powerful, so pure, so beautiful. Your music, your art, your love, your body, your tattoos, your piercings, your hip-hop, your rage, your death metal, your rock on. You fucking rock. You fucking rock. And the Sayadaws and the monks and the nuns in Burma, look at Gen F, Gen Freedom Fighter, Gen Z. Look at those boys and girls. This is the future of your fucking country. They never have to wear a robe to embody Dhamma. This is radical Dhamma. And yes, they may one day meditate, but don't look down on them as less than because they are on the streets. They are the embodiment of the Buddha. They are the embodiment of Jesus as Christ and Allah. They're the embodiment of revolution of the spirit. They are freedom in fucking Vimutti action. That's called compassion in action, love in action, decency in action, democracy in action. And for you people in Burma, you inspire the fuck out of me. You will win. So may these videos be shared. May they be translated from my heart to yours. Thank you, and I will see you again soon.